So today we're going to talk about "The Rising" by Bruce Springsteen. It's a 2002 album by him, and this is a good opportunity, I thought, to do that because it's one of my favorite, I guess, newer Springsteen albums, and it's the 23rd anniversary of it coming out, July 30th, 2002. So this album was kind of written and recorded mostly in response to 9/11, but Bruce had already kind of been writing and recording some things prior to 9/11 happening. To give some context, he had just coming off I guess nearly a 1 year tour, I guess, from 1999 to 2000 as a reunion tour with the East Street Band. So out of that came a lot of great things. They traveled through many countries, through many arenas and stuff, and kind of was the rebirth of the band. So that was a great impetus for it. And I guess people probably had thought that they were going to do a follow-up album for it, which they hadn't done a true record in the studio together album since 1984 with Born in the USA. Bruce had either gone solo by then afterwards or whatnot. They kind of had split in 1989. So people were really anxious to see what was going to happen. And I wasn't alive. I was born a couple months before this tour or this album was released. And so I wasn't really around to see this stuff firsthand. But I do remember in the years following, as a young kid, listening to this album and being exposed to it, I guess by my parents, and being exposed to the live concert album that came out afterwards. But the songs in this album are absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit lengthy for an album. It's technically a double album because I think it's got 15 songs on it, and for talking about vinyl. But it's a great story from beginning to end, of different perspectives of people that were, metaphorically or literally affected by the September 11th attacks. Either people that were, responding that day as first responders, the families and wives of people that never came home and waiting for them to come back or to hear the call. And even the song about a suicide bomber, which is kind of a sleeper track that people, I think, forgot about a lot because Bruce didn't really perform it maybe only a handful of times, probably because of how stark and disturbing the song is. But that's also what makes it great. It's called Paradise, by the way. But I think solidly from beginning to end, it's probably Bruce's best 2000s work, maybe even past 25 years, all in all. I will say this album just sounds great in general. This is the first album that Bruce worked with Brendan O'Brien, the producer with, who had done various grunge bands of the 90s, including Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, I think Soundgarden, and there's one more I'm thinking of that I can't Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think, as well. So incredibly successful producer and engineer in his own right. So he knew how to get sounds, and kind of an interesting collaboration and combination between him and Bruce. But it worked really well for this album. It's a rocking album, and it just sounds great from production and engineering standpoint. And of course, the songwriting, like I mentioned, is fantastic too. It was a great kind of comeback album for Bruce and the band, and they embarked on a tour that lasted over a year. It took them across the world from arenas and theaters, which, as I have mentioned previously, they put out a live DVD of a show they did in Barcelona at the beginning of the tour. And it's a fantastic show. I highly recommend watching it if you've never seen it before, and perhaps you're not a huge Springsteen fan, or it's just been a while since you've watched it. I think it might have been, I hesitantly say this because we have more options now than we did back in the day, but I think it might be the best official Springsteen concert that's been released. It's a full concert, and just the way it was filmed is fantastic, and the set list is great, and the crowd, the Spanish crowd, just adds a whole nother just level to it. And they feed off that energy, and it's just great. The only drawback it has is the sound is a little, not really to my liking, more so because it sounds like you're at the show. It's very boomy, sounds like you're in an arena, which is where it was, which isn't necessarily a deal breaker, I don't think. I think the show is way too good for that to ruin it. but I do wish that maybe someday they do a remix of it. Listen to some of these great tracks that are on this album.
I don't remember how I felt. I never thought I'd live to read about myself in my hometown paper. Come on up for the rising night. Left the house this morning. Bells were ringing, filled the air. I was swearing the cross of my calling. On wheels of fire, I come rolling down hill.
It's interesting to note, too, that this album, I think, has had such an impact on Bruce and the people, I think, that he is, pretty frequently, almost always included at least one Rising song in his sets, no matter what it was. Usually the Rising and or Lonesome Day are almost always been in his concerts since then. And up until recently, probably Waiting on a Sunny Day as well, which people have gotten a little sick of. But I think for what it is, I think it's a great song, especially paired with all the very darker and sadder material on that album. There needed to be a little bit of a uplifting moments, as opposed to just having an album full of that very dark material. There had to be a little break here and there of some things. And you see that with that song, you see it with Mary's Place, Let's Be Friends, which if there had to be one song on the album that I think would be the clunker on it, that would probably be the song. But it's an okay song. It's just not a very Springsteen level or Springsteen-esque song, I don't think. It's kind of out of his wheelhouse, I think. And I think lyrically it could be better. But it serves as a little bit of a break, like I said, between the dark stuff. Mary's Place. I mean, My City of Ruins is sort of a song of hope, while also recognizing the fact that your town and the place you grew up at is no longer the way it used to be when you were growing up in it, But I think the message at the end of the day is a message of hope and maybe, healing, which serves as kind of a great, sort of closer to the album towards the end. Love to know your thoughts. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Take care.